Workers' compensation may not be the only type of compensation you can receive. If you were injured while at work, you may have been told that you can only receive workplace injury compensation. However, this information may not be correct. Most workers will only ever receive this form of compensation, but there are certain situations that may allow you to sue for damages. If the actions of a third party caused your accident and subsequent injuries, they could be found liable. If a toxic substance caused your injuries, you might have a claim against the manufacturer. This type of claim is known as a toxic tort lawsuit. If you were injured by a product that was found to be defective, you may be able to hold the manufacturer liable. If you were injured because of your employer's bad or deliberate conduct, they could be found liable. If your employer does not have workers' compensation insurance, you could take them to a civil court. Any compensation you receive could include a monetary award and benefits if you have been injured. Permanent and temporary disability payments are not always very high, and they don't compensate for pain and suffering. Linked to pain and suffering, neither does the Compensation Act as a form of punishment, known as punitive damages, towards the employer, in the hope that they may cease from expecting people to work in dangerous or unsafe conditions. This is why it is hugely important for an injured worker to understand that they may be able to sue for damages. Please note that if you have been badly injured, you may be eligible for Social Security disability insurance if your injuries prevent you from working. Defective products. If you were injured by a defective product such as a piece of equipment or some machinery that did not work properly or was significantly dangerous, the manufacturer could be liable for your injury. If the manufacturer did not warn you or any other employee that the machinery or piece of equipment was dangerous or faulty, they may have to pay compensation to cover the cost of lost earnings, medical bills, pain and suffering. You may want to think about speaking to an attorney about your rights, and filing a complaint with the Department of Labor's Occupational Health and Safety Administration if you were working in an unsafe area or under unsafe conditions. You can do this in addition to filing a compensation claim. Toxic substances. Occasionally people work with toxic chemicals and substances, and at times they may cause illnesses and injuries. Any substance that causes harm could be the subject of a toxic tort. Acute and latent toxic injuries. Acute toxic injuries, such as poisonings and chemical burns, may be easy to spot right away, whereas latent injuries, such as lung disease and cancers, may take a lot longer. Latent injuries may take a lot longer to prove simply because there could be a large amount of time between someone working with toxic chemicals and being diagnosed with a life-threatening condition. Those who have suffered due to being exposed to asbestos have been very successful when filing a lawsuit. This is thought to be because the link between asbestos and mesothelioma can be easily proven. Deliberate or bad conduct. If your employer's conduct leaves room for improvement or it's deliberately bad and you have sustained injuries, you may be able to sue your employer for damages. The monetary award that you might receive could exceed what you would otherwise receive from your workers' compensation. Most states will allow a worker to sue their employer under these circumstances. However, the following states do not: Alabama, Maine, Pennsylvania, Wyoming, Georgia, Rhode Island, Indiana, New Hampshire, Virginia. In addition to this, the federal government will not let its employees file a claim under these circumstances. In approximately 10 states, an employee can sue outside of the workplace injury compensation, but only if their employer has acted in a reckless or grossly negligent manner that resulted in injuries. No workers' compensation insurance? If your employer does not have compensation insurance, you may have to take them to a civil court and thereby sue them for the injuries you sustained. There is a potential that you might receive a larger monetary award than you may have received from workers' compensation. However, you will need to prove that your employer was completely at fault and their action or inaction caused your injuries. If you are injured by a third party. If you were injured in the workplace not by your employer but by a third party, you may be able to sue them for damages. Most workers will only ever receive workplace injury compensation, but there are certain situations that may allow you to sue for damages. If you think you might be able to sue for damages, please speak to a lawyer as soon as you can.